Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Today's the third day of Sukkot, October 19th, 2024. We're going to read out of Ecclesiastes. Find that on page 1075 of your complete Jewish Bible. The words of Solomon, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Pointless, says Solomon, utterly meaningless, nothing matters. What does a person gain from all his labor at which he toils under the sun?
Generations come, generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises, the sun sets. Then it speeds to its place and rises there. The wind blows south, then it turns north, and the wind blows all around and keeps returning to its rounds. All the rivers flow to the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place where the river flows, there they keep on flowing.
Everything is wearisome, more than one can express. The eye is not satisfied with seeing. The ear is not filled up with hearing. What has been is what will be. What has been done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. If there's something of which it is said, is there something of which it is said, see, this is new? It existed already in the ages before us. No one remembers the people of long ago, and those to come will not be remembered by those who come after them. I, Solomon, have been king over Israel and Jerusalem. I wisely applied myself to seek out and investigate everything done under heaven. What a bothersome task God has given humanity to keep us occupied. I have seen all the activities that are done under the sun, and it's all pointless, feeding on wind. What is crooked can't be straightened. What is not, there can't be counted. I said to myself, look, I have acquired much wisdom, more than anyone ruling Jerusalem before me. Yes, I experienced a great deal of wisdom and knowledge. Yet when I applied myself to understanding wisdom and knowledge, as well as stupidity and folly, I came to see that this too was merely feeding on wind. For in much wisdom is much grief. The more knowledge, the more suffering.
I said to myself, come now, I will test myself with pleasure and enjoying good things. But this too was pointless. Of laughter I said, this is stupid, and of pleasure, what else? What else is the use of it?
I searched my mind for how to gratify my body with wine, and with my mind still guiding me with wisdom, how to pursue foolishness. My object was to find out what was the best thing for people to do during the short time they have under heaven to live. I worked on a grand scale. I built myself palaces, planted myself vineyards, and made myself gardens and parks. In them I planted all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself pools from which to water the trees springing up in the forest. I bought male and female slaves, and I had my home-born slaves as well. I also had growing herds of cattle and flocks of sheep, more than anyone before me in Jerusalem. I amassed silver and gold, the wealth of kings and provinces. I acquired male and female singers, things that provide sensual delight, and a good many concubines. So I grew great, surpassing all who preceded me in Jerusalem. My wisdom, too, stayed with me. I denied my eyes nothing they wanted. I withheld no pleasure from myself, for I looked at all that my hands had accomplished and at the work I had toiled at, and I saw that it was all meaningless and feeding on wind, and that there was nothing to be gained under the sun.
So I decided to look more carefully at wisdom, stupidity, and foolishness. For what can the man who succeeds the king do, except what he has already been done? I saw that wisdom is more useful than foolishness, just as light is more useful than darkness. The wise man has eyes in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet the same fate awaits them all. So I said to myself, if the same thing happens to the fool as to me, then what did I gain by being wise? I thought to myself, this too is pointless, for the wise man, like the fool, will not be long remembered, inasmuch as the times to come, everything long ago have been forgotten. The wise man, no less than the fool, must die.
So I came to hate life, because the activities done under the sun were loathsome to me, since everything is meaningless and feeding on wind. I hated all the things for which I had worked under the sun, because I saw that I would have to leave them to the man who will come after me. Who knows whether he will be a wise man or a fool? Yet he will have control over all the things I worked for, and which demonstrated how wise I am under the sun. This too is pointless. Thus, I came to despair over all the things I had worked for under the sun. Here is a man whose work is done with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, yet he has to leave it to someone who has put no work into it. This is not only pointless, but a great evil. For what does a person get from all his efforts and ambitions permeating the work he does under the sun? His whole life is one of pain, and his work is full of stress. Even at night his mind gets no rest. This too is pointless. So there's nothing better for a man to do than eat, drink, and let himself enjoy the good that results from his work. I also realize that this is from God's hand. For who will eat and who will enjoy except me? For to the man who is good from God's viewpoint, he gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy. But to the sinner, he gives the task of collecting and accumulating things to leave to him who is good from God's viewpoint. This too is pointless and feeding on the wind.
For everything there is a season, a right time for every intention under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What does the worker gain from his efforts? I have seen the task God has given humanity to keep us occupied. He has made everything suited to its time. Also, he has given human beings an awareness of eternity, but in such a way that they can't fully comprehend, from beginning to end, the things God does. I know that there is nothing better for them to do than to be happy and enjoy themselves as long as they live. Still, the fact that everyone can eat and drink and enjoy the good that results from all his work is a gift of God. I know that. Whatever God does will last forever. There is nothing to add or subtract from it. And God has done it so that people will fear him. That which was is here already, and that which will be has already been. But God seeks out what people chase after. Another thing I observed under the sun. There, in the same place as justice, was wickedness. There, in the same place as righteousness, was wickedness. And I said to myself, the righteous and the wicked God will judge. Because there is a right time for every intention and for every action.
Concerning people, I said to myself, God is testing them so that they will see that by themselves they are just animals. After all, the same things that happen to people happen to animals. Excuse me, the very same thing. Just as one dies, so does the other. Yes, their breath is the same, so that humans are no better than animals, since nothing matters anyway. They all go the same place. They all come from dust, and they all return to dust. Who knows if the spirit of a human being goes upward, and the spirit of an animal goes downward into the earth? So I concluded that there's nothing better for a person to do than take joy in his activities. That is allotted portion. For who can enable him to see what will happen after him?
But I turned away and thought about all the kinds of oppression being done under the sun. I saw the tears of the oppressed, and they had no one to comfort them. The power was on the side of their oppressors, and they had no one to comfort them. So I considered the dead happier, because they were already dead, than the living, who must still live their lives. But happier than either of them is the one who has not yet been born, because he has not yet seen the evil things that are done under the sun.
Next, I realized that all effort and achievement stem from one person's envy of another. This too is futility and feeding on wind. Fools fold their arms together and eat their own flesh away. Better an armload with tranquility than both arms full of effort and feeding on wind. Then I turned my attention to something else under the sun that is pointless. The situation in which a solitary individual without a companion, with neither son nor brother, keeps on working endlessly but never has enough wealth. For whom, you should ask, am I working so hard, denying myself pleasure? This too is truly pointless, a sorry business.
Two are better than one in that their cooperative efforts yield this advantage. If one of them falls, and the other will help his partner up. Woe to him who is alone when he falls and has no one to help him up. Again, if two people sleep together, they can keep each other warm. But how can one person be warm by himself? Moreover, an attacker may defeat someone who is alone, but two can resist him, and a three-stranded cord is not easily broken. Better a youth who is poor but wise than a king who is old but foolish, no longer willing to listen to advice. True, he rose from prison to be a king, yet while ruling, he became poor. I observed that all who live and walk under the sun took the side of the youth mentioned first, who would rule in place of the king, and that no limit was set for the number of his subjects. Nevertheless, those who come afterwards will not regard him highly. This too is certainly pointless and feeding on wind.
Watch your step when you go to the house of God. Offering to listen is better than fools offering sacrifices, because they don't discern whether or not they are doing evil.
Don't speak impulsively. Don't be in a hurry to give voice to your words before God. For God is in heaven and you are on earth. So let your words be few. For nightmares come from worrying too much. And a fool, when he speaks, chatters too much. If you make a vow to God, don't delay in discharging it. For God takes no pleasure in fools. So discharge your vow. Better not to make a vow than to make a vow and not discharge it. Don't let your words make you guilty, and don't tell the temple official that you made the vow by mistake. Why, give God reason to be angry at what you say and destroy what you have accomplished. For this is what happens when there are too many dreams, aimless activities and words. Instead, just fear God.
If you see the poor oppressed, rights violated, and justice perverted in the province, don't be surprised, for a high official has one higher watching him, and there are others above them. But the greatest advantage to the country is when the king makes himself a servant to the land. The lover of money never has enough money. The lover of luxury never has enough income. This, too, is pointless. When the quantity of goods increases, so does the number of parasites consuming them. So the only advantage to the owner is that he gets to watch them do it. The sleep of a working man is sweet, whether he eats little or much. But the overfullness of the rich won't let them sleep at all.
Here is a gross evil which I have seen under the sun. The owner of wealth hoards it to his own hurt. Due to some misfortune, the wealth turns to loss. And then, if he has fathered a son, he has nothing to leave him. Just as he came from his mother's womb, so he will go back naked as he came. And for his efforts, he will take nothing that he can carry away in his hand. This too is a gross evil, and it is every respect as he came. So will he go. Thus, what profit does he have after toiling to earn the wind? All his life he eats in darkness, in frustration, in sickness and anger.
This is what I have seen to be good, that it is appropriate for a person to eat, drink, and enjoy the good that results from all his work that he engages in under the sun for all the days of his life that God has given him. For this is his allotted portion. Also, everyone to whom God has given riches and wealth, along with the power to enjoy it, so that he takes his allotted portion and finds pleasure in his work. This is a gift of God. For he will not brood over the fact that his life is short, since God keeps him occupied with what will bring him joy.
I have seen another evil under the sun, and it weighs heavily on people. The case in which God gives someone riches, wealth, and honor, so that he lacks nothing that he wants. But God does not give him the power to enjoy them, and some stranger gets to enjoy them. This is meaningless, evil, and sick.
Suppose a man fathers 100 children and lives many years, so that he has a long life, but he fails to enjoy himself. Then, even if he were to live indefinitely and therefore never be buried, I say that it would be better to be born dead. For the arrival of a stillborn baby is a futile thing, and its departure is in darkness. Its name is forgotten, covered in darkness, and although it has never seen or known the sun, it is more content than he is, without enjoying himself. Even if he were to live 1,000 years twice over, does everyone go to the same place?
The purpose of all toil is to fill the mouth, yet the appetite is never satisfied. What advantage has the wise over the fool, or the person with experience if he is poor? Better what the eyes can see than meandering desire. Yet this too is pointless and feeding on wind.
Whatever he is, he was named long ago, and it is known that he is merely human. Moreover, he cannot defeat what is mightier than he, death. There are many things that only add to futility, so how do humans benefit from them? For who knows what is good for someone during life? during the days of his pointless life spent like a shadow. Who can tell what will happen under the sun after a person is gone?
A good name is better than perfumed oil, and the day of death better than the day of birth. Better to go to a house mourning than to go to a house feasting. For all are destined to be mourned. The living should lay this to heart. Grief is better than laughter, for sadness can improve a person. The thoughts of the wise are in the house of the mourning, but the thoughts of fools are in the house of pleasure. It is better to hear the rebukes of the wise than to listen to the songs of fools. For the laughter of fools is like the crackling of thorns burning under a pot. This, too, is pointless. But oppression can make a wise man stupid. Also, a gift can destroy understanding.
The end of something is better than its beginning, so the patient are better than the proud. Don't be quick to get angry, for only fools nurse anger.
Don't ask why the old days were better than now, because that is a foolish question. Wisdom is good, along with possessions, an advantage to all who see the sun, for wisdom is a shelter, and money is a shelter. But the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom keeps the one who has it alive.
Consider the work of God. Who can make straight what he has made crooked? When things are going well, enjoy yourself. But when things are going badly, consider that God made the one alongside the other, so that people would learn nothing of their future. In my pointless life, I have seen everything, from the righteous person perishing in his uprightness to the wicked one who lives a long life and keeps on doing wrong. So don't be overly righteous or overly wise. Why should you disappoint yourself? But don't be overly wicked and don't be foolish. Why should you die before your time? Don't grasp just one of these rules. Take hold of the other as well. For he who is in fear of God will live by both of them. To a wise man, wisdom is a better protection than 10 rulers in the city. For there isn't a righteous person on earth who does only good and never sins.
Also, don't take seriously every word spoken, such as when you hear your servant speaking badly about you, because often, as you yourself know, you have spoken badly of others. All this I have put to the test of wisdom. I said, I will acquire wisdom, but wisdom remained far away from me. That which exists is far away and deep, so deep that it can't be discovered. So I turned myself and my thoughts to know, search out and seek wisdom and the reasons behind things. Also to know how foolish it is to be wicked and how stupid to act like a fool.
I found more bitter than death the woman who is a trap, whose heart is a snare and whose hands are like prison chains. The man who pleases God will escape from her, but the sinner will be caught by her. I have found this, says Solomon, adding one thing to another to reach a conclusion. I searched a long time without finding it. One man in 1,000 I have found, but a woman among all those I have not found. This is the only thing I have found, that God made human beings upright, but they have devised many schemes.
Who can be compared with a wise woman? Who else knows what a thing means? Wisdom lights up the face and softens the grim appearance.
Keep the king's command because of the oath before God. Don't be quick to leave his presence, and don't persist in doing what is wrong, for he does whatever he pleases. After all, his word is final. Who can challenge him? Why are you doing that? Whoever obeys his command will never come to harm, and the wise person will know the right time and judgment. For to everything there is a right time and a judgment, since people are greatly troubled by uncertainty over the future. Even when the event takes place, who will tell them about it? Just as no one has the power to keep the wind from blowing, so no one has power over the day of death. If one is drafted to fight a war, one can't send a substitute. Likewise, the wicked won't escape death by their wickedness. All this I have seen, as I applied my mind to everything done under the sun when one person tyrannizes another. Thus I saw the wicked buried. They had even come from the holy place. But those who had acted uprightly were forgotten in the city. This too is a futile thing, because the punishment decreed for an evil act is not promptly carried out. Therefore, people who plan to do evil are strengthened in their intentions. For a sinner can do evil 100 times and still live a long life. Although I know that in the end things will go well with those who fear God, because they fear him. But things will not go well with the wicked, and like a shadow, he will not prolong his days because he doesn't fear God.
There is something frustrating that occurs on earth, namely, that there are righteous people to whom things happen as if they were doing wicked deeds. And again, there are wicked people to whom things happen as if they were doing righteous deeds. I say that this too is pointless.
So I recommend enjoyment. A person can do nothing better under the sun than eat, drink, and enjoy himself. This is what should accompany him as he does his work for as long as God gives him to live under the sun.
When I applied myself to gain wisdom and to observe how people occupy themselves on earth, that people's eyes don't see sleep either by day or by night, then on looking over all of God's work, I realized that it is impossible to grasp all the activity taking place under the sun, because even if a person works hard at searching it out, he won't grasp it. And even if a wise person thinks he knows it, he still won't be able to grasp it.
I applied myself to all of this, sifted through it, and concluded that the righteous and the wise, along with their deeds, are in God's hands. A person cannot know whether these people and deeds will be rewarded with love or with hatred. All options are open. Anything can happen to anyone. The same thing can happen to the righteous as to the wicked, to the good and clean as to the unclean, to someone who offers a sacrifice and to someone who doesn't offer a sacrifice. It is the same for a good person as for a sinner, for someone who takes an oath rashly as for someone who fears to take an oath. This is another evil among all those done under the sun, that the same events can occur to anyone. Truly, the human mind is full of evil, and as long as people live, folly is in their hearts, after which they go to be with the dead. For as long as a person is linked with the living, there is hope. Better to be a living dog than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. There is no longer any reward for them, because all memory of them is lost. What they loved, what they hated, and what they envied all disappeared long ago, and they no longer have a share in anything done under the sun.
So go eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a happy heart, for God has already accepted your deeds. Let your clothing always be white, and never fail to perfume your head. Enjoy life with the wife you have loved throughout your meaningless life that He has given you under the sun, all the days of your futility, for that is your allotted portion in life, and in your labor that you work at under the sun. Whatever task comes your way, to do, do it with all your strength, because in hell, where you will go, there is neither working nor planning, neither knowledge nor wisdom.
Yet another thing I observed under the sun is that races aren't won by the swift, or battles by the strong. And the food doesn't go to the wise, or wealth to the intelligent, or favor to the expert. Rather, time and chance rule them all. For people don't know when their time will come, any more than fish taken in a fatal net, or birds caught in a snare. Similarly, people are snared at an unfortunate time when suddenly it falls on them.
Here is something else I have seen as wisdom under the sun, and it seemed important to me. There was a small town with few people in it, and a great king came to attack it. He surrounded it and built massive siege works against it. Now there was found in it a man who was poor but wise, and by his wisdom he saved the city. Yet afterwards nobody remembered that poor man. So, although I say that wisdom is better than strength, nevertheless the poor man's wisdom is despised. Nobody pays attention to what he says.
A wise man speaking quietly is more worth heeding than the shouts of a ruler commanding fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but a person who makes a mistake can destroy much good.
Just as dead flies make perfumed oil stink, so a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor.
A wise man's heart leads him rightly, but a fool's heart leads him astray. And when a fool travels, he has no good sense, thus showing everyone that he is a fool.
If a ruler gets angry at you, stay at your post, because calmness soothes great offenses.
Another evil I have seen under the sun, the kind of mistake rulers make, is that fools are promoted to high positions, while the rich occupy humble places. I have seen servants riding horses while princes walk on foot like slaves.
He who digs a pit may fall into it. He who breaks through a wall may be bitten by a snake. He who quarries stones may get hurt by them. He who chops wood puts himself in danger. If the iron's blade is blunt, and its user doesn't sharpen it, he will have to exert more effort. But the expert has the advantage of his skill. If a snake bites before it is charmed, the snake charmer has no advantage.
The words spoken by the wise bring them favor, but the lips of a fool swallow him up. What he says starts with foolishness and ends with wicked madness. A fool keeps talking and talking, yet no one knows what the future will bring. Can anyone tell a person what will happen after he's gone? The efforts of a fool wear him out, so he doesn't even know the way to town.
Woe to you, land, when your king is a child, and your leaders start their parties in the morning. Happy are you, land, when your king is well born and your princes eat at the proper time in order to stay strong, not to get drunk. When the owner is lazy, the roof sags. When hands are idle, the house leaks. Parties are made for having a good time, and wine adds cheer to life, and money has an answer for everything. Don't insult the king, not even in your thoughts, and don't insult the wealthy, not even in your bedroom. For a bird in the air might carry the news, a creature with wings might repeat what is said.
Send your resources out over the seas. Eventually, you will reap a return. Divide your merchandise into 7 or 8 shares. since you don't know that disasters may come on the earth. If the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves on the earth. Whether a tree falls toward the north or to the south, the place where the tree falls is where it stays. He who keeps watching the wind will never sow. He who keeps looking at the clouds will never reap. Just as you don't know the way of the wind or how bones grow in a pregnant woman's womb, so you don't know the work of God, the maker of everything. In the morning sow your seed and don't slack off till evening. For you don't know which sowing will succeed, this or that, or if both will do well. Then the light will be sweet, and it will be a pleasure to see the sun. For a person lives many years. Let him take joy in them all, yet remembering that there will be many days of darkness, that all to come is futile.
Young person, if you spend your youth only having fun, if you use your early years just to entertain yourself, if you follow your heart as you live your life, and let your eyes be your guide, understand that for all these things God will bring you to judgment. Therefore, remove anger from your heart and keep from harming your body. For neither adolescence nor youth has any lasting value.
So remember your Creator while you are young, before the evil days come, and the years approach when you will say, they no longer give me pleasure. Before the sun and the light grow dim, and also the moon and the stars. Before the clouds return after the rain, on the day when the guards of the house are trembling, and men of courage are bent over double, when the women stop grinding grain, because there are so few. When the women at the windows can no longer see out, when the doors to the street are kept shut, when the noise from the grain mill fades, when a person is startled by the chirp of a bird, yet their singing is hard to hear, when they will be afraid to go up a hill and terrors will stalk the way, even though the almond tree is in bloom, when the locust can only drag itself along, and the caperberry has no aphrodisiac effect. Because the person is headed for his eternal home, and the mourners are already gathering in the marketplace. Before the silver cord is snapped, the bowl of gold is cracked. The pitcher is shattered at the spring, the pulley is broken at the cistern. The dust returns to earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Pointless, meaningless, says Solomon. Nothing matters at all.
Not only was Solomon wise, he also taught the people what he knew. Also, he weighed, researched, and corrected many ethical sayings. Solomon worked to develop an attractive writing style in which he expressed the truth straightforwardly. The sayings of the wise are as sharp as goads, and those given by leaders of assemblies are like well-fixed nails. In this case, they are presented by a single shepherd. In addition, my son, take heed. One can write many books. There's no end to it, and one can study so much that it wearies the flesh.
Here is the final conclusion. Now that you have heard everything, fear God and keep his mitzvah. This is what a human being is all about. For God will bring to judgment everything we do, including every secret, whether good or bad.
Now we go to Psalm 19. Do you know what page that's on?
No, but I will have it in a minute. Psalm
806, page 806.
For the leader, the Psalm of David. The heavens declare the glory of God. The dome of the sky speaks the work of his hand. Every day it utters speech, every night it reveals knowledge. Without speech, without a word, without their voices being heard, their line goes out to all the earth and the words to the end of the world.
In them he places a tent for the sun, which comes out like a bridegroom from the bridal chamber, with delight like an athlete to run his race. It rises at one side of the sky, circles around to the other side, and nothing escapes its heat.
The Torah of Adonai is perfect, restoring the inner person. The instruction of Adonai is sure, making wise the thoughtless. The precepts of Adonai are right, rejoicing the heart. The mitzvah of Adonai is pure, enlightening the eye. The fear of Adonai is clean, enduring forever. The rulings of Adonai are true, they are righteous altogether, more desirable than gold, than much fine gold, also sweeter than honey or drippings from the honeycomb. Through them the servant is warned. In obeying them there is great reward.
Who can discern unintentional sins? Cleanse me from hidden faults. Also keep your servant from presumptuous sins, so that they won't control me. Then I will be blameless and free of great offense.
May the words of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart be acceptable in your presence, Adonai, my rock and redeemer.
Proverbs 19, and that is on page 969.
Better to be poor, and live one's life uprightly than engage in crooked speech, for such a one is a fool.
To act without knowing how you function is not good, and if you rush ahead, you will miss your goal.
A person's own folly is what ruins his way, but he rages in his heart against Adonai.
Wealth brings many friends, but the poor man loses the one friend he has.
A false witness will not go unpunished. Whoever breathes out lies will not escape.
Many ask favors of a generous person. To a giver of gifts, everyone is a friend.
A poor man's relatives all hate him. Even more, his friends stay away from him. He may pursue them with entreaties, but they aren't there to be found.
To acquire good sense is to love oneself. To treasure discernment is to prosper.
A false witness will not go unpunished. Whoever breathes out lies will perish.
It isn't fitting for a fool to live in luxury, and even less for a slave to govern princes.
People with good sense are slow to anger, and it is their glory to overlook an offense.
A king's wrath is like the roaring of a lion, but his favor is like dew on the grass.
A son who is a fool is his father's ruin, and a nagging wife is like a leak that keeps dripping. A house and wealth are inherited from ancestors, but a sensible wife is from Adonai.
Laziness makes people fall asleep, and an idle person will go hungry.
He who keeps a mitzvah keeps himself safe, but he who doesn't care how he lives will die.
He who is kind to the poor is lending to Adonai, and he will repay him for his good deed.
Discipline your child while there is hope, but don't get so angry that you kill him.
A violent-tempered person will be punished. If you try to save him from it, you make things worse.
Listen to advice and accept discipline, so that in the end you will be wise.
One can devise many plans in one's mind, but Adonai's plan will prevail.
A man's lust is his shame, and a poor man is better off than a liar.
The fear of Adonai leads to life, One who has it is satisfied and rests untouched by evil.
The lazy person buries his hand in the dish, but doesn't even bother to bring it to his mouth.
If you strike a scorner, the simple will learn to act wisely. If you reprove the intelligent, he will understand what you mean.
One who mistreats his father and evicts his mother is a son who brings him shame and disgrace.
My son, if you stop heeding discipline, you will stray from the principles of knowledge.
A worthless witness mocks at justice, and the mouth of the wicked swallows wrongdoing.
Judgments are in store for scorners, and blows for the back of fools. Thank you, Father God, for this Shabbat. Let us be thankful and grateful for this time of Sukkot, and we will go forward day by day. In the name of Yeshua we pray, amen.
Amen.